Web3 version of Twitter. It's a fully thriving community altogether.
Content is already there.
And when you are the owner and the user, you're going to approach this project in a very different way. You want the best for it. And that's literally the next step of UX, what we have to take care of as UX designers.
Okay.
We have to kind of like make sure that they are getting the best without having to trust anything.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Design Talk with Hemant. This episode is an extension to the previous episode, the Web3 world for UX designers. That's where we introduce the world to Web 3.0 to UX designers. If you haven't yet checked it out, I'd encourage you to go back, watch it, and then come back here. I have shared the link in the description. Happy to collaborate with Sharan Grandigae again, and this time he takes us through a few visual examples of problems and solutions related to Web 3.0. We discuss on how to get started with designing for Web 3 and where in the journey of a product design and development would a designer play an important role to help end users have a familiar experience of using a product. Hope you find this conversation inspiring. Hop on and let's get started.
Hey Sharan, thanks for coming again. Welcome to the second part of your Web 3.0 and UX series.
Sure.
Last time we spoke a lot about Web 3.0 and how different it was from Web 2.0. And it was a very good introduction to UX designers to understand the structural differences between the two web worlds. This time I'm really hoping to understand a lot more about Web 3.0 and how UX designers need to think about when designing for Web 3.0. So welcome, and let's talk a lot more about Web 3.0 today.
Sure. Thanks for having me. It's not very surprising, but there are not a lot of people who will actually listen to me when I want to talk about Web3. So I'm very happy to be back here talking more about it.
Yeah.
But having watched the last video, I think it was very useful to actually give some examples and dive deeper into specific applications and how they behave, so that we are able to illustrate these challenges of UX that still exist. So thank you for having me. Yeah.
Just for the sake of setting a context for people who are for the first time viewing this particular episode, who do not have the context of what we spoke in the previous episode, can we start by talking about the basic differences between the Web 2.0 world and Web 3.0 world first? Maybe we can start by talking about the fundamental differences of Web 2.0 and Web 3.0.
That's a great place to start, but we've got to stop meeting only over podcasts.
Yeah.
We've got to meet outside as well.
Yeah.
But yes, let's start with what we spoke about a little last time. I think it was very conceptual.
Yeah.
This time we'll kind of like share some diagrams and screenshots, and
we'll make it more visual.
We'll make it more visual so people can follow along as well.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I think one of the big points that I keep emphasizing to anybody that I meet who's entering, any designer I meet who's entering the Web3 field for the first time, is to focus on the structural differences.
Yeah.
So and that itself will actually shape your applications and experiences thereafter. So I think there's a fundamental shift between Web 1, Web 2 and Web 3. Right. So let's just kind of like set the context on that. So Web 1 was just read. Right. As a user, you could just somebody has posted something somewhere. You could just read.
Consuming the content.
Consuming content only. Yeah. Right. So in Web 2, you had the ability to put messages back, send responses, and things like that. So it's read write.
Right.
And Web 3, in just one of the mental models, is that you could read, write, and own.
Right.
That's the best way to kind of understand it. So actually, in a historical sense, Web 1 already was supposed to have commerce as a part of it. But I think it was the DARPA's restrictions and things like that actually stopped commerce from occurring. So they said okay to everything else except for transactions to occur, because it was thought of as something that will threaten the monetary system. So they didn't allow it to come in at that time. So, but in Web3, the discussion about commerce and ownership actually has come about again.
Okay.
Commerce is actually a result of the ownership argument.
Okay.
So I'll tell you how. So what has happened is with Web3, the idea of cryptography has come in. So using cryptographical methods, you can actually establish ownership of things.
Right.
Right. So that is actually what is the fundamental part that one should know as to what is so different about Web3. And Web3, because it needs to be peer-to-peer, it has to happen in an open blockchain
Right.
that anybody can access anywhere.
Right.
So we spoke about this last time, where the best form of trust is no trust
No
at all.
trust at all.
So that is the way.
Right.
So you can verify it just as well as I can verify
Right.
what is happening on the blockchain. So that, I think, is the fundamental difference about each of the phases of evolution of the web.
Right.
So in Web3, because the data is actually owned, available to everybody, it just changes the nature of applications.
Right.
So I'm just showing you one diagram here,
Right.
which is typically the structure of Web 2. So you have an interface. An application is a collection of an interface, a logic layer, and a data layer.
Right.
So you can imagine a user who is going to application A has to go sign up for a user account,
Right.
and then they can start generating user content
Correct.
on that particular application.
Right.
So this is easy enough to understand. So I go to Facebook, or God, I'm dating myself by mentioning Facebook. But let's say I go to Insta, right? I go sign up for an account, and then I can start posting messages and things like that.
Right.
But what's the downside of that? All my information, all my photos, which I posted here, only exist here.
Right.
So let's say I go to social media application B,
Right.
a second application, right? I have to go sign up for the account all over again.
Correct.
Get it to understand, validate my identity, all that other stuff, sign up using another email address or the same email address being verified again, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
and sign up again, and then start posting all the content all over again,
Right.
right? And
Right.
you can imagine the complexity as you increase the number of
Right.
applications. Now imagine the flip structure, right? So when we talk about Web3 architecture, underlying all of this, you have the same three layers, except the data layer is shared. It's on the blockchain.
Right.
So everybody's data is, encrypted but available on the blockchain.
Right.
And the user does not need to sign up within each application. The user just identifies themselves by signing a message using their own cryptographic key.
Right.
So with that, I am saying that I am Sharan,
Right.
or I am this hexadecimal number. It doesn't even matter. That anonymity is useful. That's why I'm kind of emphasizing it. But I'm this particular hexadecimal. So just allow this hexadecimal to operate on your application,
Right.
right? And I will use your application and push whatever data I want onto the public blockchain.
Okay.
Now imagine what the structure is, right? So I go to application B, which does things a little differently on the interface and the logic layer. And what happens is I don't have to transfer all the generated content, my generated content, over again to the application B. It's all available right there. Using my own cryptographic key, it can be decoded and used by application B to present an entirely different experience.
And cryptographic key is
Cryptographic
the
key.
way of also protecting and
Yes.
safeguarding the data.
Yes. It's not, when people say it's publicly available, it's encrypted.
Right.
Yeah, it's pseudonymous.
Right.
Nobody already knows that hexadecimal key is me,
Right,
Sharan, for
right.
example, unless I declare it.
Right.
So it's pseudonymous until that point.
Right.
So, and it can also be encrypted wherever required.
Right.
So that is the thing. Now, the experience of Web3 as a user, I can go from app A to app B to app C,
Right.
right? How powerful is that idea? Right. So, but while the benefits exist, the idea that I've started with is that I have to start using cryptographic keys. That itself is a huge hurdle for anybody who new entering this field.
You mean to say any product that is, any product that is built to use Web3.
It's actually very, very simple for developers.
Okay.
I'll explain how composability comes into this field. But actually for the user, it's incredibly hard.
Why do you say
Because
that?
they have to start by creating these cryptographic key pairs, the public-private key pair.
Okay.
So that is the biggest hurdle.
Okay.
People need to understand what that is and then get into it.
And is this where UX comes in?
Absolutely. That's where designers come in, because so far it's been built by engineers.
Right.
And it really does a fantastic job.
Right.
Functionally, it works. But the layer that is required right now is to make it, especially if you want mass adoption, it has to become so simple that I'm signing up for Gmail or I'm signing up for Instagram. It should be that simple. And that's precisely where all our efforts as designers within the Web3 field is focused right now.
If you have not prepared for an example later on in the session, can you give me an example right
We're
now?
going to go through it right now.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So I don't want to just talk about this stuff. I'll actually walk you through some examples.
Great.
I don't have to show you examples of Instagram and all because everybody's familiar with it.
Right.
So what I'll do is I'll jump right into actually walking you through how it works on a Web3 project itself.
Sure.
So I'll just join. Let's use a social media example as a starting point, because I think that is most broadly understood, right?
Yeah.
So let's just go to this thing called lenster.xyz, right? So prior to this thing, what is loading up right now? I'm sorry, things are a little slow because of the mobile connection. But prior to me coming here, I've already signed up for these keys. I've created these keys.
Okay.
So in what is called a wallet. A wallet is nothing but an account.
Right.
So this is also a place where a lot of people trip up. But think of wallet as a Google sign-in.
Right.
That you create in one place.
Single sign-on.
Single sign-on thing. So you sign up for Google. Now you can sign up for sign into so many websites all over the place.
Got it.
It has a distinct difference between Google sign-in and this one, because no account is being recreated on each of the places.
Right.
Whereas in Google sign-in, that is what is happening.
Got it.
So in this place, so let's say I've come over here. So this is the typical user flow. Okay, we'll talk about where the hurdles are.
Right.
So I'll click sign in. I'm given these two options for how to connect.
Okay.
So I'll just use browser wallet because that's what I have, and I'm gonna sign into my wallet and say authorize it. Now you immediately see this becomes something like Google sign in. Right.
Okay.
So I click sign in, but this is where it differs from Google sign in.
Okay.
Here I'm being asked to sign a message using my cryptographic key
Okay.
to verify who I am.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to sign a message using my private key, but it will be decipherable by the application using my public key.
Okay.
Right? Cryptographic private public key pairs. That's how they work.
Okay.
So I'm just going to sign this thing. I'm going to confirm, and within a few seconds, it's done a verification of whether I am who I say I am, and it lets me in.
Okay.
So this is what the sign-in experience looks like.
Okay.
But like I said before, I've already signed up for a wallet.
Right.
The prerequisite to this is actually the hard part.
Right.
How do I sign up for a wallet? What is a wallet? That itself is the first question. And the wallet as a name itself is wrong.
Right.
It's not an equivalent metaphor. It's actually like an account
Right.
on Web3.
So when you say wallet, it means something else for the world already.
Yes.
And people think it's something complicated. They need to spend money on it.
Yeah. It's absolutely free. You can generate it very easily. In fact, the company I'm working with right now, Arcana, we are making this part. This is the hardest part, and this part is where we're focused on in making it very easy.
Why are they calling it wallet already?
So it's a term that has carried over from a long time of usage, but it literally holds nothing. So it's a misnomer because you don't put anything into it.
Okay.
It's like an access card, actually, like Google Sign-in or something like. It's an account.
So you're saying this is one of the hurdles?
Yes.
as part of the Web 3.0
Yeah.
structural difference as compared to the Web 2.0 world.
Yeah, the structure I kind of spoke about how the layers are different.
Yeah.
But the additional hurdle is the metaphors being used in this field are
Okay.
also a little bit of a hurdle to cross over. So we are resisting that whole idea, and at Arcana what we are doing is we are allowing somebody who understands Google sign in or GitHub sign in or whatever to click
Web
that
2.0 terminologies.
Yeah, to actually use the same tech.
What do you mean same tech?
So I'll click sign in with Google.
Okay.
Create a Web3 wallet for the user, a public-private key pair,
Without the user
having to create it themselves.
or without the user even having the knowledge
Yeah,
of what's
exactly.
happening in the background.
Exactly. It's like I want to get from here
But
to
is it
Indranagar.
like aren't the users supposed to know what's happening in the background?
You tell me whether it's useful. My goal is to get from here to Indranagar. I don't want to know how a car is made.
No, that's true.
Correct.
But
Yeah.
am I supposed to not know what's actually going on in the background?
If you want to, there's plenty of material available.
no,
But yeah.
like if I want to, would you let me know what's going on?
In fact, the material is publicly available for anybody. So there's in fact, you're talking about Arcana specifically.
Yeah.
The
No,
documentation
what I
contains.
thought was like I go on to a Web 3.0
Yeah.
solution that you guys have built or
Yeah.
whoever has built. And for me, the experience that you have built for a UX
Yeah.
output is so seamless that I end up feeling like I'm creating an account
Yeah.
and not a wallet and all these jargons that come
Exactly.
with the Web 3.0 world. And it seems like a very useful, very, set of terminologies that I'm already used to.
Exactly.
And but if I want to, would I be exposed to what is actually going on in the Web 3.0 world?
We don't specifically get into making it visible to the user because
You're
our goal is
obscuring
our goal is to get them to just do what they need to do to that point faster. Because a lot of people have spent a lot of time. In fact, if you get into this Web3 space, there's so much material about what each of these things are. And
Got it.
it's an endless field. How are these keys generated? Is it safe to be generated this way, that way? And there's plenty of...
Would it not raise questions on what you're obscuring actually? And
Absolutely. There are all these apprehensions, and that's literally the next step of UX, what we have to take care of as UX designers.
okay.
We have to kind of like make sure that they are getting the best without having to trust anything.
Okay.
And our solution is called the non-custodial wallet solution, right? So, but what does that mean to anybody? I don't want them to worry about it.
Right.
If they use it and they're seen, they are protected across Web3. That's all. That's all that cares for me. Yeah, it gets the job done. So that's literally what we do. We give them a bunch of options to sign in using any of the LinkedIn, GitHub, Gmail, whatever else they might have. All the popular stuff is there. Click a button. You in the background you've got a wallet, but quite literally you've got access to any of the Web3 apps that have signed in with Arcana.
Okay.
So that hurdle, which was massive before, that knowledge, fear that people had. Oh my God, I'm dealing with such high-tech stuff. When I talk about cryptography, I've lost half the audience, right? So that's exactly where we have to come in and kind of like as designers make it simpler. Don't worry about the cryptography. You're creating an account just like anywhere else. You click this button, you get a wallet. If you want to know what a wallet is, you can get into it. But otherwise, you are going to be taken care of. That's literally how we want the experience to be seamless.
Right. In this example,
Yeah.
For you to get a wallet created,
Yeah.
there are certain things that a system needs to do.
Yeah.
There are certain things that the user needs to input.
Yes.
So you're saying what the user needs to input, you're collecting. What the system needs to do, you're doing it.
Actually, a user doesn't need to input anything.
Okay.
A public-private key pair has to be issued
Okay.
against this particular account. And what we are doing is this public-private key pair is being assigned to this email address.
Okay.
That's the linking that we do.
So it's a completely new world
Yeah.
where the UX has not been built yet.
I wouldn't say it's not been built. A lot of people are doing a lot of good stuff across
Fair
Web3.
enough.
Yeah.
As in a simpler UX has not been built yet.
Yes. It's
there,
not
there
predominant.
exists a UX, but
Yes.
it's not simple enough.
Yes.
It's not user friendly enough for
Yeah.
a common man.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of opportunity out there.
Absolutely.
So UX designers need to come in and they need to invent or rather come up with UX that is much simpler, much accessible to people who are not very they're not used to this kind of jargons, this kind of mechanisms that exist in the Web 3.0 world.
Absolutely.
They
If you
just-
know Web 2, you should know Web 3. That's
Right.
my goal.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Why should I spend all this time learning stuff? UX. That there's that trade-off, right?
Right.
You're always trading off convenience for privacy,
Right.
and that's pretty much the case so far. But I think we are in a new paradigm where that trade-off needn't be so, because everything now works on cryptography in Web3. Everything works on cryptography. But the convenience part is what we're kind of bringing in, and that paradigm is kind of changing right now. Make it much that part we can do now, because the data doesn't need to be owned by individual corporations or anything like that. It's on the blockchain.
Right.
How do you protect it? It's already being protected with the same kind of tech that banks use for protecting money.
Got it.
So that same kind of that level of security is already being integrated over here. So now we just have to focus on making the convenience part better.
Okay.
But let me highlight more of the benefits of Web3 first, and then we'll talk about there are even more hurdles, other aspects that we need to talk about.
Sure.
All right, I've got this set up, right? So I just signed into Lenster,
Okay.
which is a social media platform. It looks like anything else. As you can see, just a feed like anything else. And I can get in there and post something. So I'm going to say, hello world, right? As typical programmers do, right?
So for people who don't know what Lenster is,
It doesn't matter. It's like just imagine it like a Twitter, another Web3 version of Twitter, right? I've signed in as I showed earlier.
Okay.
Now I'm just going to create a post.
Okay.
Now what is going to happen is that this post is going to get recorded on the screen, and it's going to get pushed into the blockchain
okay.
that Lenster maintains. So I'm going to get in here. It's asking me to sign a message. You won't believe how many people drop off at this point, because
And this happens to every single user.
every single user, every single post.
And this is not some internal build that you're using. And this
No.
is a public.
This is a public build.
Okay.
And you can imagine why they need to do it. Yeah, exactly. Even I'm laughing because, it's incredible. But the reason it needs to exist is because it is being written to the blockchain. And I have to say that this message is from me to validate that it is a valid message to be
So
pushed to the
you
blockchain.
writing the message and saying post after signing into the platform is
signing
not
into the-
sufficient enough.
Is not sufficient enough.
Okay.
Because I cannot maintain that state.
Okay.
Now the blockchain state is changing because of my message.
The concept of session having logged
No.
in, all that doesn't
No.
matter.
Every message, every time.
Okay.
So I'm going to show you the terrible example, and I'll show you the better version of this. So I'm signing this message saying that I am the person who's posting it, and I'm confirming it. There are two steps.
Doesn't it have a captcha?
That's not required. But you see this here. This is my message. It's getting indexed,
Okay.
and then it's being written to the blockchain.
Okay.
Okay. So it's taken that long.
Where is it now?
So I'm going to have to go verify it again. I'll just refresh this page. If it's been pushed to the blockchain already, it'll show up over here.
Not yet.
It's not yet. Right? So these are the some of the challenges. So there it is.
Okay.
It shows up in my profile.
Okay.
Right? So here's what Lenster had to do in order to overcome this.
Okay.
So they've created something called a dispatcher. So a dispatcher is nothing but a smart contract which is running on the blockchain, and it's going to say anything pushed. I'm going to assume it needs to be anything when I'm already signed into this platform. If I push it to the dispatcher, it's going to write it to the blockchain as if it was me, authorized by me. Exactly the way Web 2 should work.
Right.
Right. So I have to enable the dispatcher to do this. So I'm authorizing the dispatcher by doing this.
Okay.
And it's gonna thereafter not require me to sign the messages.
This is not by default.
This is not by default.
Okay.
So it's highest security by default, and then you reduce the security as you require.
Okay.
Now I'm gonna post a message.
Who wouldn't do this?
Nobody would do this. So I'm gonna type in hello again, right? And wait, hopefully the dispatcher has been enabled. Type in hello again.
Okay.
And I click post. Now it will behave the way Web 2 works.
Okay.
Done.
Okay.
Right? So this is the kind of stuff, this is the kind of thinking that a UX designer in this world, or product designer in this world needs to come in. They need to think of the idea of a dispatcher,
Okay.
a smart contract which will make these things easier. But you can't enable it by default because the expectation is the highest security by default.
Okay.
And then you downgrade the security from there as required. Like on a social media place, I don't want to do captchas in order to post a message. Okay?
So,
But
are you saying it's good to ask for that
downgrading
confirmation?
of security.
No. In the first place,
Yeah.
is the highest security better?
It's not about better or not. It's the way the structure works. The Web3 architecture works.
Right, but are you saying that's how it should be?
No, I'm saying that that's how it is. That's the requirement of the system architecture.
Right.
What we have to do to overcome that system architecture in the
Introduce
places
this feature that you
is
showed.
try to think of these kind of methods which will actually make it feel much more seamless.
But then aren't you downgrading the
Security.
standards?
But I am doing it consciously as a user because I want I'm trading speed for security.
Right.
I'm authorizing this dispatcher to act on my behalf. Right? And even now, the dispatcher is saying that I'm going to submit it, but it's actually happening in batches in the background.
Right.
It's not happening seamlessly. But to me, it feels seamless enough. So it's good.
Right.
So these are the kind of things that we need to start thinking of right now. But why does one want to go through all these headaches, right? I'll show you. So here I'm on Lenster on the desktop, right? I'm going to open this application called Orb on my mobile. It's built by an entirely different company or a group of people, okay? And right, the guys at Lenster or the group at Lenster built the desktop application.
Right.
The people at Orb built a fantastic mobile application. They're using the same data
Okay.
on the same blockchain. These guys do such a great job on the mobile. These guys do such a great job on the desktop. And neither knows each other or needs to know each
And
other.
they're able to access
And
the
they're
same
able
data.
to read it. And for me as a user, if I like this interface on the mobile, I'll switch to this interface. If I like another interface, I'll switch to that interface.
Just asking from a very fundamental terms.
Yeah.
What was the difference between Twitter and TweetDeck?
TweetDeck needed permission from
Okay.
Twitter APIs. They needed to get the licensing from Twitter in order to make that happen.
Right.
It was permissioned. None of this is permissioned. These people don't need to know each other. They don't need to ask each other permission to exist.
But as a user, you need to give permission.
As a user, I've signed into this wallet here.
Using your public.
Using my public-private key to sign a message. And I'm there.
Right.
Immediately. And I didn't need to sign up for another account, blah, blah, blah. None of that. It exists by default.
Got it.
But that's not more. That's not the end of it all. Right? So I'll take it even to the next step. So there's something called... so here's the other powerful aspect, right? Here's lenstube.xyz, right? These guys are writing an application that is competing with YouTube.
Okay.
What are they doing? They're using exactly the same data. From day one, they have this kind of massive, content ready as developers. And I just signed in using the same exact mechanism as anything else. I clicked connect and I'm done. I'm there. And all the videos which were posted in this Twitter-like format, which is not convenient to view, I can view it over here in a YouTube-like format.
This was the same wallet you signed.
It's exactly the same wallet. It's coming from the same blockchain. But completely the interface is customized for viewing videos.
Right.
And they were able to start as developers, they were able to get this kind of usage, this kind of content from day one. So it's for me as a user, I'm benefiting by not having to recreate my content in each of these platforms. But they, as developers, are able to get that kind of content right from day one.
Right.
And when I sign into a new application, I'm not looking at what do you call it? These just like emptiness in the initial stages.
Right.
It's a fully thriving community altogether.
Content is already there.
Content is already there. How rich is my experience? And if I, for some reason, get bored of Orb or Lens or whatever it is, I can switch to another application tomorrow. And there are these kind of applications, Web3 applications, which are tuned towards monetization.
Right.
They're tuned towards not having to recreate something over and over again. Like if I'm a blog writer, I exist on the same platform as a tweet writer. It can all coexist, and just the interface needs to change in order to make the content be presented correctly.
Right. Right.
So this is the power, and this is the reason why people should make the effort to get into Web3. But these are the benefits that can exist if designers like you and I can make it simpler for people to get into Web3 by understanding the structures and dependencies that exist.
Where does a UX designer as of today start?
So just like we started, right? So the best way I can till now was to dive right in and get your hands dirty. Start with creating a wallet. Watch all those YouTube videos. There's a playlist that I'll share with you actually of all the YouTube videos that I had to kind of go through, or any designer who joins our team starting from scratch. I have this playlist to create for them to go through. But it's about 20-25 hours of watch time. But I'll share it anyway because that's a good starting point for most designers.
But the fundamentals still hold good.
The fundamentals
right?
still hold good, yes.
Right.
It took me quite a while to understand these things and to understand the benefits at the end of the day. So, and now all of these things that I've shown you is actually only on the Ethereum chain. Ethereum EVM compatible chains, Ethereum virtual machine compatible chains. But this kind of things exist on other blockchains as well. And those blockchains are tuned to do different things. Like for example, Solana is is another blockchain which is tuned for speed. So gaming, Twitch kind of stuff, those things are better suited for that kind of a chain.
Would there be differences in the way UX designers work in each of these?
Absolutely.
Can you give some examples?
Yeah. So there's the blockchain trilemma, as it's called. I think if I get it right, speed, scalability, and security. I think this is the triangle.
Okay.
You can trade off. You can get two by trading off the third.
Okay.
So it's that benefit. So all blockchains are kind of like trading off one aspect over another.
Okay.
So Solana wants speed. So they go for a different way of building the blockchain.
Okay.
Ethereum wants security. They go through a different way of building a blockchain.
Okay.
So depending on your needs, you might want to do one or the other.
But how does a UX designer fit in?
So
these
by
things?
understanding these basics, why do these blockchains exist? What is the blockchain trilemma? And then go forward from there. Yeah.
Can you be more specific in one of these examples?
So, just like I said, I think the gaming systems are tuned towards something like Solana. So they work better on a blockchain like Solana.
So, suppose I'm a UX designer. I want
Yeah.
to design something in that blockchain.
Yeah.
What are the aspects I need to keep in mind? Like in my day-to-day process of designing a product for that blockchain, what aspects of my day-to-day process changes?
No, I think it works the other way. So if you were building a gaming platform, you'll choose Solana as a blockchain.
Okay.
If you as a UX designer are in that position of making that
would
decision.
I like? I am under an impression that the product is built on a particular blockchain, and I am part of that product.
Yeah.
Team.
Yeah.
And I am a UX designer.
Yeah.
Now, would my thinking change as part of that?
Yes.
And
So if the same example of Lenster was to exist on a Solana thing, you'll get your finalization and the posting of a message immediately, as opposed to the couple of seconds that it took over here.
Right. And 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 you're saying my features would vary based on that.
Absolutely, yeah, fantastic question. So let's take this as an example, the Leinster itself as an example, right? So I have to simulate speed over here, because this is on a EVM chain. I have to simulate speed, so I'll show the message while it's being written to the blockchain in the background.
Right.
So as a UX designer, I'll say show the message. So this is not the truth, in the sense it's not already written to the blockchain.
Right.
But it's very likely to be written to the blockchain.
Right.
So I'll make that call.
Right.
Whereas on Solana, I can literally write it, design the experience the other ways. Whereas I can say that show me exactly what is on the blockchain rather than create the simulation.
Right. So the interaction design
Exactly.
patterns differ based on what blockchain you're working
Absolutely.
on, or what is the product feature that is, and the product feature is decided based on what blockchain you're working on.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I
So
get it.
yeah, these are the kind of discussions you would even be having on AWS or whatever other
So
systems
now
you
it
would
becomes
choose.
even more evident that
Yes.
designer needs to be part of a product discussion.
Always.
Always.
I completely. I don't think they should be thought of as separate at all.
Yeah.
I think gone are those days. I think designers need to be at the table, having the discussions while the product is being thought of and imagined.
Right.
This is very, very true. Otherwise, these kind of trade-offs won't be made properly, and we won't be able to focus on what the right experience for the end user is going to be.
Right. What are some of the difficulties you've seen that a designer faces while designing Web3 products?
So, firstly, the technical aspect of cryptography, that itself is a challenge. Then the terminology of Web3, the language is completely changed. I spoke to you about wallets being a term, but even the nature of companies don't exist.
Right.
These are organizations which are building projects, not companies building products as such. And the monolith architecture of doing things, like where you're building the entire stack, login to user data management to the actual functioning of the application and all that. In Web3, you can you can swap between a lot of different projects and integrate a lot of different projects into building your application. So all these things are ready for you. So, for example, Arcana's Auth, the company I'm working with, if you want to do authentication using Web2 stuff in your Web3 application, you don't have to build it. It exists.
Okay.
You pick it up, plug it in, and you continue from there. So like that, every aspect of what you're doing, a lot of the protocols exist. So you just install using those protocols within your application, and you compose your application, and you can build an entirely unique experience. So your go-to market is faster.
Okay.
But what that allows you to do is to test and iterate over your product much faster.
Okay.
So these are slight differences in the way traditional applications are built compared to how it is built now. So these are aspects that drastically change how products are designed in Web3.
Does AI play a role here in Web3 in
AI
terms of design?
I think AI plays a role everywhere, but
Of course.
I don't. This is one rabbit hole on its own. But yes, it's just started making an entrance in this space. I think nowadays crypto is so passé, so to speak. But there's this very interesting blend of AI and crypto. I don't. I can't speak very intelligently about it at the moment, but the world of crypto is actually most suited for machine-based systems to operate on.
Okay.
So traditional, like for example, if I want to send you some amount of money, the traditional net banking route and all those things are not going to be anywhere close to how machines will operate between us. So my AI wants to send you your AI money, it will not be using net banking for sure, right? So our settlements are going to actually happen on things like crypto.
Right.
And at the speed of light, so which is what needs to exist in this AI world.
Right.
So that's the future, I
Right.
feel. So the traditional money infrastructure is actually not going to carry. But this is a whole conversation on its own. but it's a very interesting overlap that is forming now. It's fantastic that you asked that question. Yeah.
Other than the structural hurdles that a designer needs to understand,
Yeah.
and like I asked you this question about what are the difficulties a designer needs to face while designing for Web 3.0. Mostly you touched upon the structural understanding and the jargons and things like that. Are there other non-structural difficulties one needs to face in terms of organizational difficulties?
So another aspect we need to kind of keep in mind about the structural differences that UX designers need to kind of focus on is most of these projects are community owned.
Okay.
So it's not like corporations where they're shareholders only or something like that. Here the users and the ownership is pretty much shared.
Right.
And that's kind of like another aspect which is powerfully different about Web3. And when you are the owner and the user, you're going to approach this project in a very different way. You want the best for the project,
right?
And that's very different from a shareholder class. You look at the users of some system as the resource to squeeze. So it's a very different dynamic that exists.
Is this where the censorship part that we discussed in the
censorship plays comes as a result of this censorship, and all these other aspects also do change, but the very nature of profit making changes.
Yeah.
So here you're making things useful.
Right.
I'm obviously this eternal optimist, hoping for the the green wonderful world that can possibly exist because of Web3, but the structural nature itself makes it so. When you're the owner and the user, you want the best for the project, and you're trying to build something that is useful to you.
Yeah.
So I think that aspect also is very different.
Right.
And I'll say the last aspect that kind of needs to be kept in mind is the idea of communication. Channels don't exist on Web3 yet. In the sense, there's no email based on Web3. So there's no wallet-to-wallet communication prevalent yet. There are these projects which are trying to enable that.
Okay.
So I can send a message from my wallet to your wallet saying that I've shipped your product.
Okay.
So I can't do that yet. I mean, as a designer, you can't rely on those levels of communication. So if you built a Web3 e-commerce platform like Amazon for Web3 or using Web3, Amazon cannot send you updates saying that your product has been shipped from Bhiwandi or something like that. It does not exist.
Okay.
So what you'll have to kind of think of other methods where when you buy the product itself the first time, I'm gonna send you all these iCal links or in things in your calendar, which tell you that at this point your shipment must have been sent.
Okay.
And or I'll give you a link which says come and check your status on my website.
Okay.
So it needs to, so that email based push doesn't exist here. So you need to get the user
I need to get onto the platform to track my shipment.
To track your shipment. So small changes exist, but this exists because the communication.
So what you're saying is I won't get an email saying your item has been delivered.
No, no, you won't.
Okay.
Because I can't as a Web3 project I cannot push it to you.
Why not?
Because that communication channels just don't exist.
Okay.
Yeah, because all of blockchain is a paid for service. And this free I will send email.
Yeah, last time you had mentioned that in the episode.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. So I need to kind of change my model of thinking of how applications ought to be designed.
And that calls for the right kind of communication from the product to the user. This kind of communication doesn't exist, and this is the right way to track, or that's the way to track as of today.
Yeah, small hurdles. I mean, there are easy workarounds, but these things do exist. But so these are the other hurdles that do exist.
Right.
So you just need to kind of think outside that.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much, Sharan. This time it was very visual and full of examples, and I'll be sharing all the links that you are going to give, the videos and stuff like that you mentioned in the description. I hope it's going to be useful for all the users. I'm really hoping a lot of people are going to view those videos and get into the world of Web3 design. I hope the links are going to be useful for all the viewers. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and experience in this episode. Looking forward to catching up more with you.
It's been a lot of fun. Yes. Thank you.
It's been a lot of fun. Really. Thank you so much, Sharan.
Take care.
Yeah. Bye.
Wow, thanks for staying till the end. I hope that conversation motivated you to start exploring the Web3 world of design. Please share this video with those you think might benefit. Like the video and subscribe to my channel to get more updates on more informative videos and podcasts on all things design. Feel free to recommend various experts in the field of design. I will try and reach out to them in the future episodes. Thanks for watching, stay creative, and see you in the next one.